Hey, hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. Once again, I am wearing the same outfit I was wearing last time because I recorded this in one go and decided it was way too dang long to post as just one video, and I'm instead going to do it into two parts. If you missed the first part of this little two-part series, you just missed some book reviews. I'm going to be talking about some books that I've read in the first quarter of 2025. In the last one, I left off at Broken Threads. So the bulk of what I had to say was said, but I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more books to cover. So I hope you guys are ready, and if you are, buckle in. Okay. The Last of the Magicians series. I read this one, and by read, I mean I listened to this one in the car again. This is the ultimate book of the series. This is where it concludes. The beginning is weird. The beginning is weird. I don't know. I either wish that he had committed to what was happening at the beginning of the book or hadn't gone into it with as much detail as he did. Because it's just sort of forgotten later on, and it's weird that happens. In my review, I had written that there were some heavy tired trope usage, but enough of the story did provide enough interest that I kept going. I did feel a little bit betrayed at the end of the first beat within the story, and that is, like I said, I wish he had just committed or just not gone into it. It felt very paper napkin idea, expanded for too long, and then it didn't connect to much else. And it was, whatever. I don't think that I felt the satisfaction of oh, look, here's the connection that Grossman was intending. It just felt like I was being dragged into a weird, tired loop. About halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way through the book, the pace significantly improves. It ends up in a satisfying clip, which is how I had written it. And I was genuinely sad that the story was over. I wasn't, I was ready, but I wasn't. By this point, I actually really did love these characters. I wish we had spent a little bit more time with employed Quentin, but I understand why we didn't. I really, really, really appreciated that there wasn't just that standard everybody is paired off by the end of the story. So I appreciated that. I thought that was a good call. I would love to see that particular trope just die. Not everybody needs to pair up. Not everybody will pair up. It's boring. And yeah, Janet's character development really this is where she shines. I loved her story arc. I loved her story arc so much. We had spent time in this book, I think, as well, and then previous books going into backstory stuff for the other characters, and Janet had just been sort of ignored up until this point, at least in terms of character growth, and this really rounded her out in a really satisfying way. I do recommend the series to people who enjoy modern fantasy, especially ones who are a little bit daunted by traditional fantasy reading, because these are much shorter, they're much faster. You get a whole lot more in one book in terms of time experience. The Wheel of Time, the 14 books, it's over the course of 3 or 4 years, I think, is all it's covering. It's not a whole lot of time in 14 books. These ones, each book, for the most part, covers several years. So you get to kind of see in a more broad sweep way the growth and trajectory of these characters. I gave it, again, 4 stars. But I do recommend. Okay, I read Jurassic Park near the end of February. Surprisingly, I had never read it up to this point. This was the first time I had read it. I'd seen the movie, obviously, because I wasn't under a rock growing up or anything. I've seen several of the movies. I really, really prefer the original Jurassic Park, and I will not discuss that one further. Yeah, absolutely wild ride from beginning to end. I loved it. Classic contemporary sci-fi. It sort of has everything for everyone. If you like action, they've got you. If you like adventure, they got you. You want some horror thriller themes? Done. Yeah, parts of this book had me like genuinely tense in my seat, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I don't remember this happening in the movie, but I haven't seen it in like a decade. Maybe I'm just misremembering. Is this guy gonna live? Is this gonna happen? Like, oh, so good. So good. And I love this, like, the consequences of science for the sake of achievement is like this big overarching, not overarching, I guess undercurrent, sub undercurrent for the whole thing. And, you know, the consequences of shortcuts, unchecked capitalistic drives, no ethical checks, like all of that is brought into the story in a very natural way. And I loved every freaking second of this one. This one was an easy 5 out of 5. Definitely recommend. Yeah. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're in your 30s to read that one. Just read it now. Okay. Now we're in March. We're finally at the end of the quarter. So I read Horus Heresy book number 1, Horus Rising. That series is like 59 books long. I don't know if I'm going to read all of them. I haven't even gotten to book 2. It's another 40k book. Let's see. The description is, after thousands of years of expansion and conquest, the human imperium is at its height. His dream for humanity accomplished, the emperor hands over the reins of power to his war master, Horus, and heads back to Terra. But is Horus strong enough to control his fellow commanders and continue the emperor's grand design, or will such incredible power corrupt him? This is thousands of years back in, like 10,000 years back in the lore.
Thousands of years ago, I ran for treasurer of student council.
It's so good. I gave this one a 4.5. So it took me a little bit to get back into the swing of this world. There's like an edge to Warhammer books in general that it's just a lot. It's just a lot. There's a lot of like gore and stuff. And of course the bastardized Latinization that just makes me really wish that my phone like came preloaded with a Warhammer dictionary. And I know that I could Google some of it, 'cause some of it actually is like in a dictionary format. At this point, this franchise has been around for 1 trillion years at this point. There's a lot of context that allows for understanding whenever they use these phrases and words and stuff. So like you get into it, you get used to it, you kind of glean what it means. But if you are a more established fan than I am, you're going to be totally fine. I was captivated. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't know any of the lore for the heresy. I knew it happened. That was the end of my knowledge of the lore. I knew it involved somebody named Horus in the Horus Heresy. That's it. Didn't know he was a Primarch. Didn't know anything. The battle scenes are so frenzied that like your heart starts to race while you're reading them, which is a lot of fun for me anyway. The internal battle of duty versus like morality is sort of a common theme in 40k books that I've noticed, or Warhammer books in general. I don't know if this technically is a 40k book, but it's a common theme. It's a pervasive theme, and I think that's what makes them more interesting, because it allows you to sort of humanize these non-human, air quotes, more than human, superhuman, without being like superheroes, people, Marines. Yeah, the characters all felt really weighty, and they felt very real despite being in a very unreal environment. I really, really enjoyed interactions between the characters, just as much as I enjoyed like individual development. And I don't usually go for gore, and these can get pretty dang gory and bloody, but like, oh, the descriptions are just top tier. Like you're there in like a uncomfortable but comfortable. You were comfortably far away from it, but you were also not. You were very much in the thick of it. It was so good. I think that this book can stand alone on its own. Like you don't need to read any of the others if you don't feel like it. But I also think that it will be better if I continue reading. I have the second one, and I will start reading it sometime soon. I have such a long list of to-be-reads. It's kind of insane. I'll get to it eventually. I have other Warhammer books that are currently higher up in the line. But yeah, 4.5, I think is what I said. 4.5 out of 5. Definitely recommend, even if you don't know anything about Warhammer. If you just want an action ebook, you just want like an action-y, weird, dark fantasy, sci-fi ebook, this is it. Okay, so the next book that I read in March was, and by read I mean listened to because I had finished the Magician series, if you remember, is Mistborn. This is, Brandon Sanderson is my current, like, fixation, which is no wonder. I love The Wheel of Time, and like I said earlier, he wrote much of the he wrote the last few books in the series. So Mistborn, The Final Empire. This is decidedly a fantasy book, part of a larger universe that's referred to as the Cosmere, which is Brandon Sanderson's, like, universe. Good description, Tsuki. You don't need to have read any other of his books to get into this one. You can just jump straight in. You can read any of his books without reading any of the other ones and jump straight in. You may miss some Easter eggs. That's kind of all they are. I have not gotten far enough in the Cosmere to have been tripped up by not reading something or feel like it was necessary that I had read something in a particular order at this point. And I think I've read, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm on my 9th book now of Cosmere books. They're not all Mistborn. Mistborn is currently set in, it's going to be 3 sets of not really mini, 3 sets of other series. So it was really supposed to be a trilogy of trilogies. Now it's not. The first trilogy is set in the past. It is a more traditional fantasy feel. You are following a young girl who is just, she was a street urchin, basically, who finds herself involved in a coup to end all coups. That is a really terrible description. Let's see. Wow, this is a really long description. All right, I'm going to read it. For 1,000 years, the ash fell and no flowers bloomed. For 1,000 years, the Ska lived in misery and lived in fear. For 1,000 years, the Lord Ruler, the sliver of infinity, reigned with absolute power and ultimate terror, divinely invincible. Then, when hope was so long lost that not even its memory remained, a terribly scarred, heartbroken half-Ska rediscovered it in the depths of the Lord Ruler's most hellish prison. Kelsier snapped and found himself the powers of a Mistborn. A brilliant thief and natural leader, he turned his talents to the ultimate caper and the Lord Ruler himself as the mark. He then goes on to recruit a bunch of people with specialized skills to include Vin, who really is, in my opinion, the main character of the whole series. So the first 3 books are following in this particular timeline in this universe. I gave this as a 5-star. I do have a soft spot for Michael Kramer. I think he is, like I said earlier, one of my favorite voice actors. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, it was another one that I was suggested by a friend, and I'm really glad that she did. I loved it. I think my only real gripe with it is that there's occasionally like jarring cuts to new scenes that were difficult for me to wrap my brain around. And honestly, that could have just been because I was listening to it rather than physically reading it. I imagine there was like some lines or some symbols or like a blank page or something in between that does not translate to voice. But yeah, there were a couple of particularly like hard cuts that just threw me off, and I'd be like, excuse me, and I'd go rewind like 30 seconds to figure out what the fuck just happened. Then I figured it out. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm going to buy the book eventually in a physical format because I do prefer to read physical, and I really liked this one, so I think it's worth buying. I had so much fun with this, and I immediately jumped into book 2. But I didn't finish it next. The next book that I finished was Yellowface. I didn't enjoy this one. I gave this one a 3 stars, which is, I think, the lowest I have given so far of any book that I've read, and I'm at like book 31 or something for the year. I might have given one other book 3 stars, I can't quite remember. I understand that the narrator is sort of intentionally unreliable and intentionally irredeemable. Like, this is sort of intentionally say that 5 times more. She was obviously written to be hated, and that's fine. I don't generally like it when I can't find a single redeeming trait about a character. It kind of turns me off, and I didn't really find that. And I think it was like, I know it was supposed to be a commentary on like racism in publishing and the ridiculousness of like online forums and how persnickety fame can be, but it kind of felt like it was just a series of caricatures without any additional discussion or exploration. The message and like the literal Twitter feed reproductions were just too much. Too little time was spent on the fleshing out of primary characters, and too much was thrown at characters that were literally throwaways. Like, it was weird. There were so many throwaway, like, representation characters representing a particular facet of, like, the publishing world or the online readership world or whatever. It felt very ham-fisted. It takes about half of the book for it to finally pick up any kind of dang speed. And like, one way I can tell that I'm not particularly into a book is by going back to my reading log, because I do annotate how long I read at a time, and I read this one in little 25-minute spurts the entire time. Like, I just could not get through. I think the longest I sat reading at one point was like 45 minutes, which is not good, not great, not for me. It was just, it felt sophomoric. It didn't feel like it was introducing anything new. It felt very repetitive. Everything sort of felt like a 2D sketch, the beginning of a conversation that could have been so much more. And I was left really disappointed. I will say, though, the final climax was really good. I felt genuinely disturbed and anxious while I was reading it. I know that RFK is a good author. I know that she can do better. She's written some other amazing stuff. This one particular just like did not do it for me. But that final climactic scene reminded me that she is a very good author. This book just wasn't for me. It felt flat. I had written in my review, I didn't hate the book by any means, but I certainly didn't love it either. I hated June, though. She can rot. Yeah, so I gave her 3 stars because being able to write a character like June and keeping it consistent is difficult. I thought that there were occasional gems of storytelling moments. Again, that's good. But the inconsistency of the pacing and the complete lack of nuance absolutely turned me off. So I gave this one a 3 out of 5, which I think was a little bit generous, and I don't recommend this one. And then the next book that I read was These Letters End in Tears. This one was so good. It was very, very short. Set in a country where being gay is punishable by law, These Letters End in Tears is the heart-wrenching, forbidden love story of a Christian girl with a deviant heart and a Muslim girl leading a double life. That's a terrible description in my opinion. It was devastating and absolutely beautiful. The format is unassuming and fun. It was novel to me. It was a series of letters that are written by the narrator to her former love, who she has not seen since her disastrous and frankly mysterious disappearance when they were in university. It's written in a very simple but very poetic way. There's a seamless intermingling of languages that are present in Cameroon. It was heartbreaking, and there were spectacular highs and devastating lows, and I really, really loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I will continue to give it 5 stars. I very much recommend. It was so, so good. Okay, we're back at Mistborn. So, The Well of Ascension, we're in March now. That is the ultimate book of the first trilogy within the Mistborn series, Mistborn saga. So you've got 3 books in this timeline, 4 books in the next one, which is like a weird Western fantasy, and I haven't started that yet because I'm doing other stuff in the Cosmere, but I will later. And then there's going to be 3 or 4 set in like a more sci-fi setting. And I love that he plays around with he's going to be playing around more with different genres. But all of them have an undercurrent of fantasy, like that's like his shtick. So anyway, back to this. The Well of Ascension is the penultimate book. That is number 2. I didn't get to 3 until April. So, The Well of Ascension. This is everything that happens after you change the world. Basically, the immediate aftermath. You're following Vin again. It was good. I don't want to spoil too much. You can kind of glean a little bit of something that may have happened. I'm just gonna read my review. Gonna keep this one short. Unlike Brandon Sanderson's writing habits,
boom, roasted.
This was an amazing second installation into the Mistborn series. Like any second installation, the pace is a bit slower, but the stakes are infinitely higher, and Sanderson keeps the reader engaged, even through the slower plot movements. I do not get surprised easily by twists, but when I tell you my jaw literally dropped in the penultimate book within the book, each novel's composed of several books, I do genuinely mean it. I was in the shower when I was listening to it, and I went, no. Anyway, there were some really clever literary devices used to develop the characters we've grown to love, which I also appreciate. And again, Sanderson ticks all the boxes for a genuinely great fantasy series. 5 out of 5. I am so glad that my friend recommended the series to me last summer, and I could not wait to start the next book. And started I did, but I didn't finish it in this quarter, so I'm not going to talk about it. I loved this book. It was slower than the first one, because in my experience, book 2 in any trilogy is the character development book. Usually not a lot of plot happens. There might be some setup for plot stuff, but mostly it's character development, and that's what you got for a lot of this one, and I really... Okay, so for the final one, I know this is such a long one. I read a lot of books, okay? The last book that I read in this quarter was Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. It is sort of whimsical, kind of eerie, very uncomfortable, and I love me a novel writing format, and these ones, the story is told through a series of journal entries, written by Piranesi, though he is sure that is not his name, and his experiences in the house, titled TH, capital T-H-E, capital H-O-U-S-E. I spelled house for you, in case you forgot. Or if you were going to try and spell it in German. Yeah, I went into this book not knowing anything about the plot, and I think that was kind of a boon for me. I got to experience the world with Piranesi, though he is sure that is not his name, he is sure of it. His activities, like his recording of his little universities experiencing. I want you to have a similar experience, so if you don't know anything about this book, go ahead and read it. It's a really terrible thing, like, I'm gonna lead some of you so astray, but it was just a lot of fun. So, like, I know that there is a lot of contention around Neil Gaiman right now, right? I get it. I read a lot of Neil Gaiman in, like, high school and college, and there is an almost childlike otherworldliness that comes with some of his books that, like, left a lasting impression on me, and I feel like this was that, but better. So if you read, The Ocean at the End of the Lane or something, that's a book that you have, tucked away in your heart because you really enjoyed it, Death of the Author or whatever, you will, I can almost guarantee, I won't because I don't want you coming at me, but I can almost guarantee that you will enjoy Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I gave it 5 out of 5. Definitely recommend if you need a dash of whimsy interlaced with unknown darkness. That's how I ended that particular one. Okay, that was such a long video. Thank you for joining me on this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I like doing this kind of thing, and I can cut them up into, like, month by month instead of quarter, because it turns out I read a whole lot and I have a lot to say about a whole lot. But if you enjoyed this, please let me know and I'll do one for the second quarter. So April, May, June, which we're obviously not through yet. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 of the 31 books I read in the first quarter. And I have started another one today. So that'll be 32 books. And we're only halfway through May. Obviously, minus 17. So, anyway. I don't know where I'm going. My brain is melting. It's so hot here. It's like, what is the temperature right now? You're going to laugh at me. It is 70 degrees. And I'm melting. This house is not built for the heat, okay? I am sure if I go downstairs and I look at my little temperature gauge, it's going to be like 77 inside. I need to go turn my AC on. I have like one of those window AC things. It has like a big hose, but I have to like hook it up in a weird way because my windows don't open. They're not like the sash style windows. They're like the door style windows. So I have to like jerry rig it to make it work and not just have all the heat seep in and lose all the cold. So I'm going to go fight with that because I think it's just supposed to be hot for the next like week and change. I don't know how I'm supposed to survive that. Yeah, 70. Oh, it's going to go down on Thursday. It's going to be a nice and calm 57. That'll be nice. Ooh, and then 60s next week. What? I'm still rambling. Anyway, thank you for joining this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. Leave a comment in the comment section below. If you like to see other stuff about books, I do have some literary reviews in the playlist that's going to show up at the end of the screen. Over there, I guess over there-ish. I don't know, this is flip, whatever. You're going to get a suggestion from YouTube as well as a link to my other video essays where I mostly talk about European history because that is my primary focus, but I do have some other literary reviews and I would like to do some more of these just like generic book reviews of things that are not history-based because I love to read and I feel like folks who watch my stuff might also love to read. I hope I will see you all in the next one. Bye! Why is my camera doing this weird pulsing thing?